Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We had some warm weather blow in for today, and then tonight it'll all blow out and it'll be back to normal, back to cooler temperatures. With these warm temperatures, I've had the heat off in the greenhouse for the last 2 days. I didn't even have it on last night. And you can see the overnight low went down to 2 degrees Celsius or 36 degrees Fahrenheit. And the outside temperature right now is 15 degrees Celsius or 58 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the greenhouse, it's 32 degrees Celsius or 89 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the first spring I've had this glass greenhouse, and it's the first time I've overwintered my hardy trees and my temperate trees in a heated greenhouse over the winter time. So I was very worried about the trees breaking dormancy early, and then I was thinking, well, why should I be so worried? I can keep them in the greenhouse here until the weather warms up outside. I've only ever thought of this greenhouse as kind of a tool for extending the growing season of my tropical trees. And then I was thinking, well, I could extend the growing season of my hardy trees also. They can wake up early here in the greenhouse. They can grow, get a head start on the season, and then when the weather warms up outside, they can go outside on the benches, and then the tropical trees can come into the greenhouse. So a lot of trees are breaking dormancy. You can see I've got a trident maple here that's leafing out. I'm starting to get some buds on my gardenia here. The lilac over here, the buds are really swelling and turning green on it. The Zelkova, or Japanese graybark elm, the buds are really swelling on it. My Osage orange, you can see green tips on the buds there. Very exciting. The cedars, my thujas or my eastern white cedars, they had all their winter colors where they're kind of that bronzy color, and now they're all starting to green up. So they're breaking dormancy, which is exciting to see. You can see my Cascade one here, how it's greening up nicely. Over here, I've got my little cedar spirit tree. It was all in its winter colors, and now it's starting to turn green again. My old growth cathedral style cedar here, it's turning green once again. My forest here, which was, you know, a very really extreme winter colors. You can still see some of them down here. Kind of that bronzy, almost reddish color. It's starting to green up. My birch tree here, my paperbark birch, it's getting all kinds of green buds all over it. So things are starting to move. My larch forest down here, it is broken dormancy. So you can see there's a shot. You can see all the green tips on the buds. The needles are starting to come out. My Avatar Grove, it's all turning green also. All the foliage is turning a nice green color. So things are moving. It's exciting. And, you know, if we get some more severe weather coming where we're going down like minus 10 degrees Celsius or something, you know, well below freezing, I can turn the heat on in the greenhouse and keep them warm. So I don't have to worry about, you know, all that new foliage that's coming out dying off, which is the first time I've been able to do that. And it's kind of exciting. And I hope it extends the growing season of both my hardy trees here and all the tropicals. Outside here, things are changing too. Yesterday, this bench was all covered in snow and it's all melted. I'm starting to see the tops of my benches now. Spring is on its way, that is for sure. Now, we can have some pretty cold weather still. This may be just like a warm day, 1 day of warmth, and then it'll go back to winter for, could be a month, maybe even a month and a half. But, you know, hopefully it is still getting warmer outside. So there's the bonsai area. All the snow on the roof is melting and you can see it running into the rain barrels. So I'm working on refilling all my rain barrels today. I closed the valve on my cube yesterday, so I'm hoping it's got some water in it. Yeah, it looks like it's got some good water. So I'll refill the barrel in the plant room. It was getting down just slightly below halfway. So I'm going to refill that today, get it topped up. I'm going to work on my larch bonsai forest today. I can rough prune them in the winter, but I always leave the fine detail pruning until you see the green on the buds. I always want to prune back to living buds. I don't want to, prune back to dead branches or dead buds. So that's why I wait until I see green on the tips of the buds and I know that bud is alive and it's going to grow. So then I can prune it back to living buds. So I'll get out the forest and I'll begin the pruning work. Here's a look at the larch forest, and it looks really beautiful this time of year with the buds just starting to break. It looks very miniature. It gives you a nice spring image, everything coming back to life. Yeah, it's a really beautiful time to look at a larch forest. The moss is greening up nicely. The mountain stream is beginning to flow from the ice and snow melting in the mountains. Yeah, it's a really beautiful time of year. To keep a few principles in mind when I'm pruning the larch forest. One is that I want the branches to be kind of horizontal about 2/3 of the way up the tree. They should come out horizontal. As you go up towards the apex, they should lift and become vertical. And as you go down the tree, they should go from horizontal to drooping, ideally. That's kind of generally how a larch grows in a forest setting. Another principle I want to apply when I'm pruning is the cone of vigor. These larches are very vigorous at the top, the apex of the trees, and as you go down the tree, the vigor gets less and less towards the bottom branches. So when I'm pruning, I prune the top of the tree more severely and leave the bottom to grow a little longer. Another principle I want to apply to the larches is that larch branches in nature grow very chaotically. They don't look organized, they just look like a jumbled bird's nest of branches. However, they do lie in planes. You don't get, generally you don't get big shoots sticking up high. They're kind of flat planes of jumbled kind of branches. So I want to keep these larches looking fairly realistic, so that's how I will prune the branches. I won't be so concerned with, organizing the branches into this perfect fan-like structure. I want them to be kind of jumbled, kind of what you would see on a larch tree in nature. Another principle in the pruning of these larches is that I've got to get sunlight to each branch. I can't have branches shading out branches below, so I've got to keep that conical form so each branch gets sunlight. I can't have my trees, the branches overlapping each other. I've got to keep each tree compact so it has its own triangular conical shape and it doesn't interfere with the trees beside it. So it's going to be a very slim conical shape that I'm trying to prune all these trees to. Another indication of vigor on the tree is how strong the new buds are. So you can see there's some buds here that are opening up quite nicely, whereas some of the other buds are just starting to show green on them. So it kind of shows where the vigor is on the tree. So if you get a vigorous section like this with the buds coming out, you can prune that a little more severely than an area that might be weak and the buds are just starting to show. Keeping all those principles in mind, I can begin the pruning now. I'm going to begin pruning the trees now. So I'm going to start with my number 1 tree in the forest, the largest, tallest tree. Over the winter, I took the whole top off the tree, replacing the leader with this branch here. So I don't want to prune this branch too much because I don't want it dying off. This is the new leader of the tree, so I want lots of vigor coming up to this leader. So I'm going to leave that grow a little longer before I prune it back. That way it kind of, gets all these sap channels running to the new leader. I don't want to weaken it. So I'm going to start on the branches that surround this apex. So I've got branches here, and remember, I want these branches in the upper part to kind of be not horizontal but pointing upwards more. So I have some upward sweeping branches here I can prune to. So maybe some of these downward facing ones can come off. Like this one. Taking that off. And remember, I've got to take a lot of vigor out of this upper part of the tree. Otherwise it swells up and gets thick. I try and keep these branches as delicate as possible. It's hard to do. So I'm coming back here now, looking for upward sweeping branches that I can shorten back to, like right there. There's a nice sweeping branch up here, but I can take the tip off. These branches are getting quite long up here. If I want that conical silhouette, I could prune this whole branch off to this kind of upward sweeping branch here. It's a big cut, but I think it needs to be done. It's just getting too long, this branch. So here I go. I've got to do it. Taking that whole branch tip off. Big cut. And then this part is too long too, so I'm going to take that back also. I can leave a bit of stub for dye back here. Like that. So that's really reduced that branch back now. Looks much better, and it's kind of upsweeping a bit. Behind that branch, I have another branch here, so I've got some upsweeping branches way back there. I'm not sure I want to take that whole branch tip off. I'm going to just reduce parts of it. Take this bottom part off the branch. I'm going to shorten this branch to here. I'm going to take the bottom off this branch. Tip off here. That shortened it somewhat, but I think I gotta go back further. I do. I'm going to make this the new branch leader, so I'm going to take it off here. Big cut, like that. So that gets that branch more compact. I'll prune that part that's hanging down off. Kind of keeping it sweeping upwards. And then maybe, you know, maybe someday I'll prune it back to this one, take this tip off. Have to see. So that's 2 branches I've pruned up near the apex. Now I've got another one here. So looking from the front, I can prune off this whole section out here. A big cut, like that. Again, you know, losing ramification, but you've got to keep these apex under control, otherwise they get too thick. That's good, I think. And now I've got this branch at the back here, so similar thing, I want to shorten it. This is very hard to do on trees, but you just have to. So I'm going to take it off right here, a big cut. Here I go. Taking that whole branch tip off. Wow. And that's got those branches as compact as I can get them. Here's a look at the apex of the #1 tree. And you can see it's not perfect. It's not like textbook placement of the branches or anything, but it looks very natural. And that's what the clip and grow will do. It'll give you a natural appearance. You get all kinds of cool movement in branches, taper. Yeah, and it just gives it an interesting character to the trees. I'll work my way down the tree now. Again, you know, keeping the branches compact in that conical form if I can. So I'm getting down to that 1/3 height, so the branches should be kind of horizontal here, and then they kind of go upwards as I go above, and then below that they start to droop downwards. That's ideally. You see this branch comes out here, and then there's a part that goes upwards, and then there's a part that continues in a straight line horizontal. I think I take that horizontal part off. That'll give me some movement in the branch, and it'll shorten it. So, big cut coming up, here I go. Like that. There's one sticking straight up here. I could remove that. It looks a bit strange. It's a little long to be sticking straight up. There'll be hundreds and hundreds of pruning decisions today on this tree. I'm thinking maybe I can reduce, I've got growth at the back. I'm going to take this whole branch tip off like that. That shortens that, keeps it a little more compact. Keeping that conical form in mind, the direction of my branches, and how much sun they get from above. The 3 principles of pruning, I guess I would call them. So I'll work my way down the tree. Again, you know, doing the best pruning I can. You can't do everything in one pruning session. It takes years and years before you get that perfect branch growing in the right spot. And yeah, it takes a lot of refinement to slowly get a really nice shaped tree. This branch is a little long here. It's starting to interfere with the tree beside it, so if I can bring it back, I will. And I can. Bring this one right back to here. Taking that tip off. That helps. That's brought it in a little more compact. Gives a little more room between the trees. Just trying to see if I can bring it back even further. I guess I could take this whole back off here. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the whole back part of this branch off. Like that. That'll bring that branch in a lot more compact. I could take this off here. And this off here. That's brought that branch in a lot, so I've got lots of space between the trees now, because don't forget, in spring these shoots are going to grow like crazy, so they'll be, you know, this long, so they'll be interfering with each other. So the further you can keep your trees spaced apart, the better. Keep them compact if you can. As I say, it's always easier to grow your tree larger than to bring it in more compact. On these lower branches, I'm trying to get them to weep, so I'm looking for buds on the bottom, branches that are hanging down that I can develop and then prune off the more upright sections of them. So for instance, on this branch I have a shoot growing down underneath, so I could take a lot of this branch back. I could take it right off, in fact. I'm going to take at least the top part of it off here, like that. That looks better. It smells lovely, these larches, when you prune them. It just smells like you're walking through a forest. Beautiful. So again, I'm working on these branches towards the back here, and I've got another tree right behind it, so I've got to make everything as compact as I can so those branches aren't overlapping each other. On these lower branches, I'm pruning back some of the upright growth, getting more shoots to develop more horizontally. I'll work away pruning up the rest of the trees in the forest using my 3 principles, my cone of vigor, my branch direction, and keeping them compact and having their own spot of sunlight. So I'll work away and we'll come back and see how it all looks. I'll work on this tree now, this tree. I'm going to show you one more pruning. On this tree out front, I've got this one branch, and it's always bothered me. It always looks too thick and straight. So I'm going to correct that today, or take some steps to get it looking better for the future. It comes out very thick, which it's actually too thick. It's probably one of my more thicker branches out of all these trees. So it comes out thick, and then it divides into 2 here. The one at the back is thinner, but it's not a good direction. It kind of grows over top of the branch that's coming off the other tree here. So this direction is nice, but it's quite thick, this area. I do have a thinner branch behind, but it's not going a very good direction. However, I could have it kink back and then forward again. That might solve my problem. It's still thick here. I may have to take that branch off. It's a beautiful branch, but That would be a tough decision to make. But I've got to look. Let me step back and have a look at the forest overall, and I'll decide whether I keep this entire branch or prune it off. I'm looking from the distance here, and it comes off the main trunk at 90 degrees. It has kind of no movement. When I look at the forest, that always stands out to me as it's not in harmony with the rest of the forest. It has a different character to that branch than all the others. So for that reason, I think I've got to remove it. And it's a tree that's up front, so I want the trees in the foreground here to have their branches, their lowest branches higher. And as you go back in the planting, the lowest branch will get lower. And that gives you a forest perspective. So I think removing that branch will also give you a better view of the two trees behind here. It's kind of blocking them quite dramatically. And yeah, that branch just stands out. Now I've got two possibilities for that branch. I can remove it completely, or I could create it sort of like leave a stub and create like a deadwood kind of branch on it. I don't have any deadwood on these trees. And you know, I walk through a larch forest in my morning walks, and they're very similar to these trees, and they don't have any deadwood on them either. Deadwood on trees could look good in the right place, but I don't know if it's suitable for these trees. I'd have one branch out of all these branches that has deadwood, and it might look a little strange. It might focus your attention back to that branch. So I'm thinking of just pruning it off flush, or leaving a very small stub. I'll try a stub. If I don't like it, I'll prune it off flush. All right, here I go. So I'm going to try pruning it back to that back branch first, just to see what it looks like. Taking that whole branch off. It looks better, but you still see this big thick part of it. Like, this is a nice branch here. Really nicely formed, but it's just got to come off. So here I go. So I'm going to leave a bit for a stub, see how it looks. There you go, branch. Looks quite different. It opens this area up a lot. Wow. Makes the tree look taller. I'm trying to imagine what that stub would look like. I don't think I want it. I think I want to prune it flush. So here I go. Like I said, if I had other, deadwood on the tree, yeah, but I don't. So I think it would just bring attention to that area. So I'm just kind of pruning this so it heals over fairly nicely. Here's a look at the forest now. That's quite a change. It really opens up that area towards the right-hand side. I think it looks quite nice. I think all the branches in the forest look very similar now. That one branch always stuck out and it bothered me. So now it's gone and I'm liking it much better. That branch, I knew I had to do something with it someday. Yeah, so now when I look at the forest, nothing stands out. It looks like a forest. All the trees harmonize with each other. There's no one branch that draws my eye or any trunk that draws my eye. It's nice. I like it. It's a peaceful scene. I've got that branch out of the way, the one that always bothered me, so now I can finish up pruning the rest of the trees in the forest. I finished pruning up all the trees, so here's a look at them. So they don't look a whole lot of difference, but I did sort out a lot of problem areas. Branches that were getting too thick, I removed the ends of them. I did a lot of work, actually. Well, here's all the branches I took off. Now, it may not look like a whole lot, but you have to remember this tree was already roughly pruned. So, you know, there's some pretty thick branches came off. Quite a few. Yeah, a lot of difficult decisions, but I really like the forest now. It looks a little lighter. It looks a little more airy. More space between the branches. A little more definition to the form, that conical shape. So yeah, really nice. The trees all have their own spot of sunlight when you look from above. So I'll definitely have to watch all these branches as they grow in, make sure they're not, you know, overlapping and killing out some of the interior branches. I have lots of branches that have died off on the interiors. I've just left the dead branches on, but most of the ones are alive now, and I'm going to keep them alive through careful branch management. Try and keep my apexes slim on the trees. It'll be an ongoing battle, but I'll try. So the trees, they're starting to get some nice bark on them now. They're slowly maturing over the years. Exciting to see. I'm going to touch up my landscape a bit. I've got a bit of perlite showing up here, so I'm going to get those that aquarium gravel, which is quite heavy, and put it around the stream head here. I think that'll look good. All right, here I go with the aquarium gravel. I'm just going to put a little bit up here. Maybe a little down here. Just to kind of blend everything in, just sort of like small stones along the stream and the shore here. I think that looks good. I don't want too much, just kind of subtle in there. Yeah, it looks quite nice. Let's have a look at the stream now. The mountain stream. I think it's looking quite nice. The forest is really nice to look at this time of year. My larch forest has undergone some fairly major changes in the past year, removing that apex off the tallest tree, removing that lowest branch today. But it's getting better, I think. It's starting to look better and better each year. I'm going to have to keep it protected from any hard frost with those new shoots coming out, so I'll keep it in the greenhouse here until it's safe to put it outside on the bench. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.